Let's talk about the Premier League Hall of Fame, because for the first time, managers have been included, and two of them have gone in. It's pretty easy to guess which two. Sir Alex Ferguson and Arsene Wenger, the first two managers inducted to the Hall of Fame. The Hall of Fame, I think, is a relatively, I guess, novel thing for British sports fans. Big thing across the pond in the United States, making it through to the Hall of Fame, starting it here in the United Kingdom. Some people think it's about PR. Maybe a couple of decades in, we will see it really, really highly. At the moment, it feels quite new. But obviously, at this point in time, given some of the legends we've had over the last 25 or so years in the Premier League, there are some big names to go into that Hall of Fame still. And every year, the names that are included are obviously very, very worthy of being there, given what's gone on in the past, including these two today. So really, the only question mark over them is whether managers should be in the Hall of Fame. First question, managers into the Hall of Fame. What do you think?
Yeah, but they have to be big. I think the two words you use there, big names. And they don't come much bigger than Sir Alex Ferguson. Like I'm still, and I said it earlier and I'll say it all the time, the tactics, along with sports science and everything else, has just evolved so much like never before. It's still ultimately about the players, about what the players can do on execute those plans on the pitch. But if you're talking about big names and if you're talking about influence on the Premier League, I can't think of someone bigger than Sir Alex Ferguson. So there should always be more players than managers. But at the same time, if a manager, and both of these guys justify exactly to be here as well, should they be there? Absolutely. You think of the Premier League and you think of Sir Alex Ferguson almost straight away. So I don't have a problem with that, but they have to be, have made a real impression on the Premier League.
Okay. So someone like Pep Guardiola, and this is I think the big difference, because a lot of the people going into the Hall of Fame have had long careers in the Premier League. But imagine Pep Guardiola's, and to be fair, he's been a manager for quite a while in the Premier League now. Clearly, these two managers make it seem quite insignificant, but actually managers don't last very long at the moment, and Pep has clearly been at Manchester City for quite a while.
And the moment he leaves Manchester City, brings City down to everyone else.
You think so?
I think Pep Guardiola is that good. Not only do I think he's the best manager in the world right now, and this is subjective, I think he's the greatest ever. I think he's that good. I think he needs to win a couple more Champions Leagues. But once he does, I think not only in terms of trophies, but in terms of the impression he's made on the country he's been at. And I look at England, I cover League One as well as Premier League. I do stuff for Charlton TV. And I watch teams in League One, centre-back split, centre midfield drops in, full-backs push on.
They lose the ball and concede a goal immediately.
And they're not. Do you know what, Hugh? You're absolutely spot on. They're not able to do it. But what have we got? What are we watching? What are we witnessing in front of our eyes? Is League One and League Two managers wanting to play the Pep Guardiola way. And let me tell you, this was even before he arrived on English shores. So I think the impact he's made on English football before he even arrived, but even more so since he's arrived, 4 Premier League titles out of 5, and who knows whether it's 5 out of 6. We'll have to wait and see. If it's any other team, I think everyone's going for Arsenal. But because it's Pep City, then we're not quite sure. So Pep Guardiola, for me, in terms of longevity, he may or may not go as, well, he won't go as long as Sir Alex Ferguson. I don't think he'll go as long as Arsene Wenger. But he should be one of the next names in there. Jose Mourinho as well, but Pep Guardiola for sure.
Jose, we heard today that he would be the next manager to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. What do you think of that, Jose Mourinho?
Absolutely. I mean, you talk about big names. What a character. When he first came in, said, I'm a special one. He didn't say the special one, apparently. Special one. But just the charisma, what he did at Chelsea, he gave everyone belief, to individuals as well as the club and the fans. Pulling Frank Lampard to one side, I believe you can be the best central midfielder in the world. Just one example. And the impact he made was nothing short of sensational first time around.
There is a part of me that thinks the Hall of Fame isn't always for the most longevity or the highest amount of silverware and medals. This is an entertainment business, actually. And I think when you think about the players and people, not just managers, all players, to be honest, there's broadcasters, for example, that have brought us, the most memorable goals. in terms of an institution of what the Premier League is, and when you look around at other Hall of Fames, whoever has left themselves a real mark in terms of that, as soon as we think of the product, just like you said, we think of these people. They almost, for me, deserve to be in the Hall of Fame.
Absolutely.
This is not me making a bid for a future Premier League Hall of Fame. That's not me. Maybe Adrian Durham deserves to be there, but certainly not me. But you look at some of the people that are in there. For example, Eric Cantona, and you maybe think people would say, well, he didn't have the longevity of an Alan Shearer, or it doesn't have that that Steven Gerrard, aura, but he was maybe fleeting. But he gave us the moments, and Jose Mourinho maybe fits into this category. As an entertainment business, wow, how often were you turning on the TV to see what a manager was going to say or do on the touchline before Jose? All right, we had Sir Alex pointing to his watch, and we had Arsene Wenger, zipping up the coat, but also remonstrating with the officials. And they were part of it. Kevin Keegan, his era was part of it in terms of the managers. I do think the managers, very strangely, play a big part in the entertainment factor that we have in the Premier League, and that's maybe why I think that they should, even more of them should get into the Hall of Fame.
I'd swap the word entertainment for impact. So it's not about how long you've been there, but it's the impact you've made while you've been there. And that's why even if Pep Guardiola left at the end of the season, the impact he's made, not just with Manchester City in the Premier League, but English football as well, without a doubt he should be in there.
So when we think of someone like Claudio Ranieri, a future manager for the Premier League Hall of Fame, a title winner with Leicester City, the most incredible title we've ever seen won. Does he deserve it?
I don't think there's a better, maybe there is, and I'm sure someone will tell me quite quickly, sporting story, let alone football story, of Leicester winning the Premier League title. When you think of what the money involved, obviously what Nottingham Forest did in the late 70s, winning the second division title straight away, winning the first division title, then what's now the Champions League. That was incredible what Brian Clough did, but in terms of the finance, that what they were up against, I think Leicester was just incredible. Do I think he should be inducted into the Hall of Fame? I think he's quite far down the line. And we'll see how it evolves and develops. But at this moment in time,
isn't that the impact you were talking about?
That's one season. And then did he get sacked the very next season?
Wasn't that?
No, yeah, absolutely. So this is where it's difficult to use one word to define it.
Yeah.
It's not just trophies, but trophies is probably the strongest one. But it's about a little bit of a combination of everything.
And these conversations are what turns the Hall of Fame into something that none of us really care about. To over the next 20 years having strong arguments about
and how subjective is it?
Exactly.
Like we said earlier about the Spurs fan. Couldn't disagree more, but everyone's entitled to their opinion.